Bhagavad Gita is a book of mankind's collected experience of and answers to life's most basic questions. Who I am, from where do I come, what is my purpose and destiny, and most practically, how do I find happiness? These podcasts originate in the lectures of Neil Bhatt, a disciple of Swami Chinmayananda. They are presented here in 20 to 30-minute segments, each covering 3 of the Gita's 701 verses. Welcome to Gita Wisdom for Daily Living.
We have completed chapter 9 and we'll be discussing chapter 10, Yoga of the Divine Glories. We are halfway in Bhagavad Gita, so let's see what we have learned so far. In the first 6 chapters, we have learned about ourselves as individuals and how we act in this world and what is the most efficient and proficient way to act in this world. And that segment of Bhagavad Gita ended in Dhyana Yoga, yoga of meditation. The next segment, which we are discussing now, deals with Tat, that Lord, upon whom I'm trying to contemplate. Describing from chapter 7 onwards the glories of that divine supreme being. Chapter 7 and 9 indicated his glories. Now chapter 10 is elaborating on them in the language which you and I can understand. So this is the extension of the discourse which Bhagavan started in chapter 9, Raja Vidya, Rajago Yoga, and we are elaborating on it. So far what we have seen in Bhagavad Gita is that chapter 1 gave us the thumbnail sketch of our own situation, what we are dealing with in our lives. That we see all actions performed by us or performed by others through the lens of our attachment. My son does something as a baby or as a child, it's very cute. But neighbor's son does it, it is a misbehavior. So we see every action performed by us or performed by others through the lens of our attachment. If I like that person, it is okay, it is good, it is acceptable. If I don't like that person, it is not acceptable. That's why the Republicans see the world differently than Democrats. The reality is same, but the two parties see it completely differently. We see this world through the eyes of our attachments. So that's what we saw in chapter 1. Arjuna saw the situation through his attachment to his gurus and his elders and his cousins. Chapter 2 gave us the profound knowledge that we are not what we consider us to be. We are not the individual mortal beings. We are the manifestations of the same reality, same all-pervading reality. That reality which I called I, you called you, she called her, and he called him, is one and the same, is immutable, imperishable. So what I call I is imperishable. When I attach I am this, that this is perishable. Whenever I say I am an architect, I am a man, I am a husband, I am a father, that comes after am is perishable, but I remains imperishable. And therefore I can keep changing I and attach anything which I think I have acquired, I have obtained with that. So that was chapter 2. Then chapter 3 brought us to what type of actions are acceptable if I want to liberate myself from this bondage of my actions. Every action is binding. Every time I act, I know there will be a result. Whether that result will be conducive or not conducive is not in my hand. Once I perform action, I'm bound by that action. So therefore, chapter 3 gave us a very clear instruction. Yagnarthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. Actions performed other than that for yagna are binding. In other words, the actions performed for yagna, for the greater good, are not binding. Yagnarthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana tat artham karma kaunteya mukta sanga sam achara. And therefore, O Arjuna, perform action for yajna only and live freely without any attachment. So that was a clear instruction from Bhagavan that act you must, but act for yajna only. You will not be bound by those actions. In other words, every action that you perform, think about whether it is just for you or it's going to benefit some other people also. So that becomes a greater good. Chapter 4 gave us the profound concept of tyaga. What is giving up something? The giving up something is giving the fruits of actions. Tyaktva karmaphala asangam nityatrupto nirasuyaha kurvanti abhi pravritto api na evam kinchit karoti saha. When somebody performs action without any expectations for the fruit, even though he is performing action, he is not doing anything. In other words, he is not bound by that action. So chapter 3 told us to perform actions only for yajna, and chapter 4 told us to give up the fruits of actions. Expectation for a particular result from my action. So that was the advice in chapter 4. In chapter 5, Bhagavan said, think about that you are not the doer. Na evam kinchit karomi iti. Yuktaha manyate tattvavit. One who knows the essence about his own self. One who knows what that I is when I refer to my I. He knows that that I is not performing any action. That I, the consciousness in me, is not taking part in any action. And once you take that stand, you are giving up the sense of agency. I'm not doing anything. Chapter 6 told us to focus on that Supreme Being and gave us another definition for yoga. We have came across 2 definitions of yoga. Earlier in Bhagavad Gita, yoga karmasu kaushalam and samatvam yoga uchyate. This chapter gave us another definition of yoga. Dukkha sanyoga viyogam yoga sangnitam. When you detach yourself from dukkha is yoga. So right now we are programmed to get attached to dukkha. I may have everything going right in my life, but there is one thing not going right. My focus will be always on the dukkha only. So we are constantly attached to dukkha and ignoring what is sukha in our life. But once that attachment to dukkha is the cause for all your sorrows. If you learn to detach yourself from dukkha, yoga sangnitam, then you have achieved yoga. And that person is firmly established in yoga. He knows what yoga is. Detach yourself from dukkha and then focus on, contemplate on that real self which constantly rises in your heart as I. Early morning when I get up, that feeling which rises in me that this is me. Prata smarami hrudi sansprat atma tattvam. That atma tattvam, that which says this is me, that essence which rises in my heart when I wake up, that's me. After that everything happens is superimposition on that I. The rest of the day, I'm living with the superimposition of various things which I think is me or associated with me. So chapter 6 gave us that contemplation on that I. And then chapter 7 onwards is telling you what to contemplate on. I want to contemplate, but on what? Unless I know my goal, there's nothing to contemplate on, or nothing to meditate on. So chapter 7 onwards, Bhagavan is giving the definition of the tat, that which you're seeking. That Supreme Lord, that state without any unhappiness, sorrows, any limitations, any death. That state is described from 7 onward. Then 7, we came across a very innovative way Bhagavan describing himself. We constantly say, I do not know Bhagavan. I have never any experience of Bhagavan. And Bhagavan said, you meet me every day, everywhere, every time. Because Bhumi, Apaha, Analaha, Vayuhu, Kham, Manaha, Buddhi, evacha ahankara itiya me binna prakriti astadaha. Everything that you know, 5 great elements, mind, intellect, and ego, they are my 8-fold manifestations as Prakriti. And you are living in the Prakriti, interacting with that Prakriti. So you know me very intimately. You know me in your everyday life, but you're not recognizing me. That's my lower Prakriti. Other than this manifest Prakriti, which is perceptible through your senses, there is higher Prakriti of mine, which only you can realize. You cannot perceive, you cannot think of, but you can realize it. So that was the message in chapter 7. And chapter 8 gave us the direct definition of that Supreme, Aksaram Brahma Paramam. That Brahman Supreme is imperishable. Swabhava Adhyatma Uchyate. When he resides in all being, that's his nature. That it seems like he's divided in all beings, but he remains undivided. That's Swabhava. Bhuta Bhava Udbhava Karam Visargam Karma Sangnitam. That gives rise to a being. Anything which comes into existence because of that is called karma. When you create something, it's called action. So Bhagavan said, that which gives rise to a being, that I am a being, that's called action. So Aksara Brahma Paramam, that Brahman yourself is imperishable. And last chapter, chapter 9, we have seen that relationless relationship. Bhagavan said, they are in me, but I'm not in them. So what is the relationship of this world of plurality and the Bhagavan? Bhagavan said, the plurality is in me, but I'm not in the plurality. But in reality, even they are not in me. Even they are not existing. Because they're nothing but superimposition, and we have seen this classical example of snake and rope. Rope exists, snake also exists. But snake is nothing but a superimposition on the rope, and therefore rope is the permanent reality. Snake never had any real existence at any given time. So the world of plurality never has any real existence, but only in my perception. My world is created by my perception, your world is created by your perception, his world is created by his perception, and so on and so forth. When my world and your world overlap for time being, that becomes our relationship. So for the next hour, our worlds are overlapping on each other. That becomes our Sunday morning Gita class. But you see from your point of view, and I see from my point of view. I'm in the center of my world, you're in the center of your world. So that's, we have seen chapter 9. Raja Vidya Raja Guyo. This is the royal secret. That even though the same singularity pervades everywhere, you and I see it as multiple realities. So now, in chapter 10, titled Divine Glories, Bhagavan, without wasting any time, tells Arjuna that Bhuya eva mahabaho srunu me paramam vacha. Again, he said, Bhuya, again, once again I'm telling you that pay attention to my profound message. Paramam vachaha. This is a profound message, because no matter how many times I tell you, and you think you understood it, there's something which you have not understood yet. So pay attention to it. I'm encouraged by your enthusiasm. Yatte aham priyamanaya vakshyami hitakamyaya. I'm encouraged by your enthusiasm, which is very dear to me, and therefore for your own good, for your own welfare, so that you can make progress in your quest to understand your own self. I'm going to tell you some more. So pay attention to this profound message which I'm going to give you in this discourse. It is as simple as that. Bhagavan is encouraged by the enthusiasm of the student. Student is encouraged by his understanding so far. He understood that there is something really very different about reality that I thought all along. I thought all along that this limited life is the reality. Bhagavan said this is just a dream. Just like you dream every night. This is another long dream. Once you come out of it, you know that nothing has changed. When you demolish this room, from the space's perspective, nothing ever changed. Space was here. It is here right now. Once the building will demolish, space remains right here. No change ever took place in the space. But from my perspective, the room space came into existence, and room space disappeared, and the room was destroyed. The same way, when the ego came into existence, it created this individuality. When the ego is destroyed, the individuality is destroyed, and merges into that supreme reality. And Bhagavan said, it is not your fault, Arjuna. Name viduhu suraganaha prabhabamna maharshaya. Even the divine entities or the divine faculties are incapable of knowing me. Prabhavamna maharshaya. Even the Maharishis do not know me. So at the individual level, the suraganaha are my senses. My senses are illuminating the world outside. My five senses created this world of five different sense objects. One is missing, that part will be missing from my world. If my eyesight is not functioning, the world of my sight goes away. My hearing goes away, the world of my sound goes away. And so on and so forth. If all five senses are not functioning, all perceptions of the world goes away. So my quest in knowing this world through my sense organs and using the same tool trying to understand the Supreme is not possible. Name viduh suraganaha. I am not perceptible through any sense organ. Even the divine ones, those the pure entities who makes my eyesight possible, that which is behind my eye, which becomes my eyesight, there is no capability of seeing the Supreme. So Bhagavan said, I am not perceptible through your senses. Prabhavamna maharshayaha. Maharishis, the rishis who have tried to unlock the secret of the reality. My intellect is constantly trying to unlock the secrets in my world. I'm trying to understand what's going on in my world. When I look outside the window, I see the sunlight there, and I come to the conclusion it is day outside. My intellect determines because sunlight outside, it's day. If it's dark outside, it's night. So my intellect is constantly trying to dissect my world and trying to understand the reality as it is, as I see, as I perceive. And I do the same. I'm using the same tool. I'm trying to understand Bhagavan. I'm trying to understand the Supreme Self. I'm trying to understand my own self. And Bhagavan says, Prabhavam na maharshaya. It is not possible for intellect to understand it also. No matter how sharp the intellect is, it is not capable of knowing the Supreme. No matter how sharp my sense organs are, they are not capable of perceiving the Supreme. And the reason for that, Bhagavan says, Aham adihi devanam maharsinam cha sarvasaha. Because I'm the source of the devas and maharishis. Anything which is a source of something, that something cannot know the source. I know my son's childhood, and I can describe in detail what happened, Neeraj, when you were 3 years old, when you were 4 years old, when you were 2 years old, then 5 years, 20 years, and today. He cannot describe my childhood because I am the source of his being. I am his father. He can only know things about me which he has seen after he was born. But before what I did is beyond his perception. He can say, I heard from somebody. So we can say we heard from Upanishads. We heard from great teachers what the nature of the reality is. But that's not my experience. So Bhagavan said, I am not perceptible through mind, through sense organs. I am not also understandable through intellect, because I am before both of them. I am the source of both of them. Puranic perspective, Swamiji mentions here that 7 rishis are mentioned in Puranas, starting from Bhrigu to Vasishtha. And there are various 7 in various Puranas, which Swamiji describes in his commentary. But from our purpose, for understanding from a Vedantic perspective, this is my quest of learning myself. It's a quest of self-unfoldment. So the rishis are my intellect and devas are my sense organs. So then Bhagavan said that I am still knowable. Yomam ajam anadim chavetti loka maheshwaram asamuda samarthesu sarva papahi pramuchyate. But there is only one way to know me. One who recognizes that I am ajam, I am without any birth or death. In other words, I am fundamental. I am not emergent reality. My consciousness did not emerge because I have these sense organs. My consciousness is actually fundamental. My sense organs emerge because I am a conscious being. Because I am a conscious being, my sense organs function and I can decipher what I am perceiving. It's not other way around, but because I am deciphering the world outside, I become conscious of it. So Bhagavan says, one who knows that the consciousness is fundamental, not the perception is fundamental, he knows me in the reality. That there is nothing before me. There is no source of me. I am who I am. Ajam anadim. Anadim, infinite. There is no adi. There is nothing before that. What was before Big Bang? That reality which created Big Bang, there is nothing before that. Anadim. Chavetti loka maheshwaram. And he is the Lord of all the world. Again, we say my world is controlled by my consciousness. My world exists only as long as I am conscious of it. The world I am not conscious of does not exist for me. So many things are happening in this world I am not aware. World of sports, I have nothing to do with it. I do not know when the Super Bowl comes and when whatever the other tournaments are going, because I am not involved in it. It's out of my perception. It is not something which I am involved in. So Bhagavan said, Loka Maheshwaram, I am the Lord of your world which you have created by considering who you are and your relationship with the world outside. I am the Lord of that. In other words, that's possible only as long as I function through you. Asamuda samarthesu sarva papehi pramuchyate. One who realizes this fact that consciousness as I is beginningless and unborn, he becomes without any death and he is relieved from all his sins. Sins are only related to my ego. Anything which I have done which created negative impression on me, I consider that a sin. It is giving me sorrows. As Swamiji says, you are not punished for your sin, you are punished by your sin. It is something which I have done which has created guilt in me, and that guilt is punishing me. But once I come out of this identification, then I know it was the nature of my being. I did what I did because that's who I was at that time. So Bhagavan said, you will be relieved of your sins. We'll stop right here. If you find this podcast helpful, please support it by donating any amount by going to the episode's website at neilbhatt.podbean.com or at chinmayarichmond.org. Thank you. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhave. Om
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.